always be a need for a good story well told. The same holds true for a good melody well played. In the history of bluegrass banjo, there have been none better at creating good melodies well played than this year's recipient of the Distinguished Achievement Award, Bill Keith. William Bradford Keith was born in Boston, Massachusetts, December 20th, 1939, one of 4 children of Elvin Bradford and Lucille Keith. This puts Bill in that next generational branch of bluegrass musicians that also brought us Roland and Clarence White, the Osborne brothers, the Dillards, Bobby Thompson, David Grisman, Eric Weisberg, Vic Jordan, Byron Berline, Richard Green, and a whole host of creative, new-minded bluegrass pickers and singers. Bill's first instrument was a plastic ukulele. During the 4th grade, his real interest in music began with the banjo of the tenor and plectrum kind. Like many children, he also had to play the piano. These various introductions served him well as the music theory, chord construction, and fingering technique helped broaden his skills and develop his musical ear, which were put to great use when he moved to the 5-string banjo. Bill bought his first 5-string banjo in 1957 after hearing Pete Seeger's 5-string with the Weavers. His interest soon gravitated to the bluegrass styles of Earl Scruggs, Don Reno, Don Stover, and others. He worked hard to decipher the 3-finger roll style and was soon playing Scruggs solos note for note. It was Bill's note-for-note tablature transcriptions that later made up the first edition of the Earl Scruggs Banjo Instruction Book. Bill supplied the exercises, recorded and produced the audio instruction, and even coached Earl through the exercises. Inspired by a neighbor's wife playing of Devil's Dream, Bill sensed a way to play long melodic statements through what might be called a string crossing technique, and was able to play the entire fiddle tune note for note. From that moment on, the bluegrass world has never been the same. Earl Scruggs had found a way to play song melodies in the style with which we are all so familiar, but Bill was able to go in another direction. He demonstrated a seemingly magical way to play fiddle tunes and in turn any short lengths of 8th-note melodies. All of this was played with the same drive and clarity that was the hallmark of bluegrass banjo playing. This new melodic, or Keith style, as it came to be called, was soon sanctioned by none other than Bill Monroe, who hired him for his band and renamed Bill Keith Brad, so as not to cause confusion about there being 2 Bills in the band. During the 9 months of 1963 that Bill played with Monroe, he recorded classic instrumentals that set new standards for the music: Devil's Dream, Salt Creek, Sailor's Hornpipe, Pike County Breakdown, Shenandoah Valley Breakdown, and Santa Claus. Bill is also heard on the vocal number, Were You There When They Crucified My Lord? Monroe, knowing that he had something really special, encouraged Keith to put in some of that stuff on these recordings. Let's take a moment and listen to that first Opry appearance by Bill Keith.
Hey, Bill, before one that I want to know that I'm here so you can stay out of my way. Okay, I will. Hey, before you start into that, I want to say something. This banjo player back, I haven't met, but I've heard him, and golly, he isn't about the finest I've ever heard. Aren't you from up in Massachusetts or somewhere? Yeah. Boston. Can you imagine a guy from Boston, Massachusetts? And it's Bradford Keith, and he plays that banjo like the greatest I ever heard. Let's get him back up here with a big round of applause. Bill Monroe, come on, boys.
If you follow Monroe's music and career closely, you come to understand the seismic shift in banjo playing that occurred after Bill's tenure in Monroe's band. All the players that followed were not only well versed in the Scruggs approach, but also in Bill Keith's melodic settings. That says volumes about Keith's contribution to the core of the music. Bill Keith also brought a cultural shift to the music by being in the forefront of a youthful, non-Southern musicians to join Monroe's band in the bluegrass world. As historian Neil Rosenberg noted in his Bluegrass: A History, Keith's impact on bluegrass was revolutionary. It certainly was for me, a young man growing up in Oklahoma, far from the eastern centers of bluegrass music. My connection was through the portal of my college and picking mate by fiddler Byron Berline. Byron had recorded with the Dillards, and he appeared at the Newport Folk Festival, where he met and played with both of the Bills, Monroe and Keith. Through Byron, I heard live recordings of Monroe featuring the magical, mystical, maze-like playing of Bill Keith. My banjo mentor, Eddie Shelton, and I spent many a long night at the tape machine trying to decode the messages Keith was sending us, trying to glean as little as 2 notes in a row that we could learn. It was a heady time. If revolutionizing the bluegrass world with his melodic style adventures were all he had done, it would have been monumental. But there was more and much more. Through his inventive and creative use of roles, check out his recording with Red Allen and Frank Wakefield on Newt Camptown Races, or any of his solos to Monroe's songs on those long ago live recordings. He presented his own unique sense of syncopation to add to the bluegrass lexicon. He had his own licks. With his sophisticated harmonic understanding, he moved the 5-string banjo and players into realms not thought of or little explored prior to his arrival. Jazz tunes became doable. Listen to Night in Tunisia on Slim Ritchie's Jazzgrass CD, or Caravan and Jordu on his Something Old, Something Newgrass, Something Borrowed, Something Bluegrass album. Classical pieces became possible. Here is recording of Nola, and pop tunes with more modern harmonic sensibilities were available. I hope you get a chance to hear his wonderful rendition of You Came a Long Way from St. Louis. As a sideman and a leader, Bill declared his musical and technical vision to us through his 100+ recordings, public performances, and the many workshops he conducted here in America, Japan, Australia, and in Europe, from the upper reaches of Finland to the toe of Italy. In addition to his huge contribution to the Scruggs book, Bill Keith generously shared his musical and banjo understandings through instructional material published in France, Italy, and Sweden. His recent offering is a distillation of his passion for the operating system of music. Bill co-authored The Natural Way to Music with Jim DeVille. Did I mention he is also an inventor? Along with Dan Bump in 1963, Bill designed and manufactured an improved version of the Scruggs D-tuners that allowed for the pitch-changing mechanism to be housed inside the normal tuning peg, rather than an external cam system which required drilling unsightly or damaging holes in the headstock of the banjo. The Keith bump pegs became the rage, and over the years they have taken on the aura of fine jewelry, a beautiful and useful appointment to anyone's banjo. Bill loves to demonstrate his product, and did with his recording of Old Lang Syne, where he plays the entire verse and chorus of the melody, never touching the fingerboard, using only his Keith tuners. After Dan Bump's death in 1989, Bill became the sole operator of the business, the Beacon Banjo Company, now in its 50th year. We don't know how the banjo would have progressed without Bill Keith, but we do know how it went with him. Through his unique vision and understanding, Bill provided us with a musical environment for the banjo and the bluegrass world. His contribution made room for diverse varieties of music, expanded playing techniques, and helped to feed the imaginations and fill the musical toolboxes of Tony Trischka, Bela Fleck, Noam Pikelny, Chris Pandolfi, Ned Luberecki, Mike Munford, Richard Bailey, Bill Evans, Ryan Cavanaugh, and me. Please make welcome this year's recipient of the Distinguished Achievement Award, Bill Keith.